All right, everybody, we are back with more week 2 previews. And this is LOC. What a crazy week of LOC. I'm gonna say right now that I have the most points for in LOC and probably the first time and only time this season. So I am gonna rub it in everybody's face. And starting up with the first matchup, it's called the Life Without DaK. We got the 12th man 0-1, who's 62 and 46 career versus Bills Mafia, who is 0-1. And Kamish, I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so we're starting out here, and Bills Mafia is dead last. So, the exciting part about the LOC, even though I give tier 2 shit all the time, is that tiered system and the fact that a team can drop. And it's sometimes it's more exciting to see who gets in the playoffs. So, and Bills Mafia is off to a rough start. Let's face it, he made the trade, and I get what he was trying to do. He traded Mahomes. You get the extra draft capital, and let's face it, DaK was in a supposed high-powered offense, so you'd think he'd put up points, but this has turned out to be an absolute disaster for Matt. And now that he has Jacoby Brissett at the helm, I mean, trust me, Brissett's not going to be the guy that's going to get you too many W's when your roster is already that weak. I think this is going to be a great rebound game for Brian after a tough divisional loss to the Age Crew, and I got Brian winning this one easily, most likely, even though Cam Akers looks like he might be a bust for Brian after week 1.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I have Bills Mafia winning this one as well. The one thing that I actually find kind of exciting on Sleeper is that if we wanted to turn it on, there is a setting where each team who scores more points against the median would actually get an additional win. And the median for week 1 was 233.255 points. And neither of these teams scored over that. I think Brian scored 225 and Bills Mafia scored 151, I believe. He was a low scoring team. And I'll be honest with you, I can see Bills Mafia scoring the least amount of points this week as well, if not, the least to the bottom 3. And Brian should definitely have an easy win here as well. Next up, we have Sabotage Spartans and Deuce, who is 22 and 19 in his LOC career, versus another newcomer, Young Wolf. But unlike Bills Mafia, he is 1-0. He did start out with that win. And, looking at this lineup, this matchup, in my opinion, there's a lot of games I had for Ramiro that he could probably win if he just makes a couple trades here. I have him real quick. Let me actually just find him real quick on this list while I am looking at. I actually have him scheduled to lose this one, but I also had him scheduled to lose last week as well. But I honestly, I just like Sabotage Spartans teams a little bit better. And Commissioner, I'll kind of pass it over to you real quick.
Yeah, I like this team better too. I mean, it is Dushan and Sabotage Spartans, and you were just talking about the median. And I think Dushan was one of those teams that lost but got more than the median, right? And again, we talk about, wins, losses being the most important thing, and clearly it is. But points for is usually a good indicator of how well a team is built. With Dushan, I think he's just going to get a lot of points from Hurts in prime time again in a tough matchup against Minnesota, though. But I could see that being a show where Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown might put up a lot of numbers. I do see Michael Pittman is questionable for him, so that might be something that he obviously has to keep an eye on. One thing I'll say about Young Wolf, great job getting Dontrell Hilliard. He looks like he's definitely involved in that Tennessee offense, so I thought he did really well there. Devontae Adams, let's face it, he's coming out to prove he is a top 3 wide receiver based on what I saw in that game. One thing for him to watch, though, of course, Alan Lazard's injury and Alec Pierce's injury. Those question marks are too much. I originally had Dushan. I'm sticking with Sabotage Spartans to get the first win, and Ramiro is going to get his first loss in the LOC.
I agree with you. However, looking at Sabotage Spartans' side, I mean, to me, it is kind of scary having Damian Harris as your, let's call it, RB2 on your team. The Patriots offense didn't look that good. He is probably RB2 in my opinion as well. I mean, he does have AJ Dillon, and he did also have Jeff Wilson, who is probably RB1 this week at least, unless he gets injured like he normally will. To me, Dontrell Hilliard He had 2 rushing attempts. Oh, that's all he had last week, but he did have those 3 catches for 2 touchdowns. I don't know how likely that is to happen again for the young Wolf. And Jalen Hurts, he as I always say, he is a great fantasy football quarterback. He is not a good IRL quarterback, and that is why Sabotage Spartans gets to win here. And to answer your question, Sabotage Spartans did score 255 points. That is over the median, and Young Wolf scored 222. Next up, we do have it's BC Lions, and Stan, who is 0-1, is 18-23, playing against the 6 in Milan, who is 56-52. And is this a must win for Milan? Probably. I'll be honest with you, that division is pretty damn good that he's in. If he wants to keep up with True North, if he wants to keep up with Green Lightning, even Storm, who she scored we haven't talked about her, she scored 202 points, but she also has that 1 win. Where the Milan, he scored 213, did outscore, but if he loses this week against BC Lions, and it's kind of over for him, in my opinion. That Maple Leaf division is tough. The top 2 teams, if you're not keeping pace with them in the beginning of the season, you might as well just say wrap it up and start selling early, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put, must win there for Milan too, because I think you projected them to have a nice year. I projected them to go 9-4, and that week 1 loss against Green Lightning was a huge surprise. I think to a lot of us, kind of like Denver losing to Seattle. And then the injury bug has hit Milan, and that's part of why the loss happened. Eli Mitchell got hurt early. T. Higgins got hurt early. You're taking out 2 key offensive players. That could happen to any one of us on any given week. It happened to Milan, and it cost them. Obviously, Eli Mitchell's going to be out for some time. He does have the luxury of looking at replacing him with RB1 Rex Burkhead, if you can believe it. 71% of the snap count, I believe it was, for Houston. So clearly he's the guy getting involved. I think Aaron Rodgers has a huge bounce back game for Milan against Chicago, a team he historically destroys. And I think he will destroy Chicago on Sunday primetime. Even though Chicago got that win against San Francisco, I still thought that they looked horrible and that offense looked horrible. The only way BC Lions is ever going to get a win, and it is possible, is if Tannehill, Metcalf, Diggs, these guys each put up 30 in that given week, and there is a chance that BC Lions could get a W somewhere. It's not going to happen this week, though. I got Milan in the 6.
BC Lions does play Bills Mafia as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I expect a big bounce back from Aaron Rodgers. Even Zeke might get some points this week as well. Antonio Gibson. AJ Brown looks like the ball is just going to be thrown to him on every pass that Jalen Hurts does drop back to throw to. T. Higgins. It really comes down to how's he doing in the concussion protocol there. But I'll be honest with you, he's playing BC Lions. The team doesn't scare me at all. And this is a no-brainer, and this is an easy win for Milan in the 6th here, in my opinion. Next up, Fallen Misfits is playing against Too Good for a Name, and Luke. Fallen Misfits is 52-56. He's getting closer to that 500 versus Luke, and he's 44-36. And honestly, by the end of the season, it might not doesn't matter, because he might not even be in the league anymore.
Well, this is the reason why this one's titled 0 Wins, of course, is because you are the guy that predicted always shitty to get 0 wins. And what a game it would be for always shitty to get a win versus you. I mean, if the ultimate revenge would be like, oh, fuck, you think I'm going to get 0 wins? We'll see about that, right? He's not going to get it against you, though, unfortunately. I definitely have you winning this one. Getting one step closer to a career 500 record, which I know you'll love to get to that pinnacle at some point. You're only 4 games back now from Milan in the 6 and Lucas and Green Lightning as far as career. So obviously your recent history has got you a little bit higher with them. Jahan Dotson, you guys knew I loved him all summer. I think he looks like he could even potentially be a future keeper for you. The one thing I will say, though, is C-Mac didn't really seem all that electric to me. against the Browns. So maybe it might take a little bit more time for him to prove his worth. Obviously, he's going to get the volume, so he's gonna get it done. But it's easy win for you. He's got nobody. He's got Avery Williams and Zamir White starting at running back. It's over.
Yes, I mean he scored 175 points. I had the most points for last week, and yeah, there's what you nailed the hammer on the head. So I have nothing else to say. Next up, we have Bare Naked Ladies and Joshua, who's 42 and 39, going up to Chris and No More, a newcomer who is 0 and 1. And at the time that I had this, I looked at this matchup. I thought this matchup would be pretty close. I originally had No More winning this, and then I was watching the game. I was like, "Oh, Bare Naked Ladies might actually come back and win this one." But then Josh put up basically a goose egg last week as well. I think he scored only 184 points. No More scored 202. And I'm actually going to stick with my prediction here and say that No More is going to win this one. And yeah, I think No More is going to sneak out a win here against Bare Naked Ladies.
Crazy. I mean, you guys know when Chris traded Mike Evans, I thought that was too early, right? But again, he's new to the LOC. I think Josh finds a way to win this one. I think Trey Lance finds a way to get some fantasy points this week for him versus Seattle. I don't think Brian was wrong when he put on chat that really was Seattle's Super Bowl on Monday. I don't see them doing much after this, but who knows? They might shock the world. I also think Allen Robinson's going to have a bounce back for Josh. I think he only put up 2 points, which was a big disappointment there. And Ketchen Kelsey and Schultz literally, could be the number one option in their offenses. So I like those guys for Bare Naked Ladies, and that's going to be the difference. I got him winning.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this matchup, you have Joe Burrow playing Dallas versus Trey Lance playing Seattle. If Seattle's defense shows up like it did last week, I don't know. Trey Lance might throw 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a big bounce back game. Looking at the running back room, I mean, you've been saying Khalil Herbert, all preseason, and I've been like, it's a little crazy, but honestly, you might be a little nuts, and you might be correct in that as well. Herbert might be more valuable than David Montgomery. And then honestly, like looking at the entire running back rooms for both teams, it's battle of the backups. To me, it doesn't really matter. And then I think the win is going to come down to the wide receiver room and the flex options here. You got DJ Shark, DJ Moore, and Marquise Brown versus Braxton Burrows, Allen Robinson, and Mike Williams. And then you have Kelsey and Schultz versus Logan Thomas and Jared Everett, who I believe scored, had a touchdown, 54 yards, and 3 receptions. And then when you kind of break it down into the flex options, you do have Chris Olave in there, Pringle and Quez Watkins going up against Hartley, Gage, and Rigger. And then even looking at the IDPs, Parsons versus Fitzpatrick versus Alshire versus Hughes. It's just a cluster, and it's anybody's game. And at this point, No More can sneak out a win, I think. And I think I won't really be scoreboard watching this game, but it's going to be low scoring, and I think anybody can win it.
No, Bare Naked all the way.
All right, we'll see. Next up, we do have the Ontario sweep here. So we have Billsy Bob Danny is 0-1. He is 26 and 54 versus Green Lightning, who is 56 and 52. And yeah, I'll let you start, Kamish.
Yeah, so the Ontario, the quick 2-game mini Ontario sweep is what Lucas can get here, taking out Milan and then taking out Danny, who both reside in Ontario. The reality is, when I look at the history between these two, it's been a joke. Lucas has a career 6-1 record versus Billsy Bobs. And, in a year where I thought Billsy Bobs was actually going to do something this year, he really laid an egg week 1 against Kristen Storm. And I did call Kristen Storm to win that one. But He laid a massive egg, and part of it was Alvin Kamara didn't really do too much for him, and he's looking questionable. And even Mark Ingram, who he picked up as his handcuff, also has a questionable tag right now. Michael Carter, let's face it, he paid off for Lucas. I believe he put up double-digit points anyways, for sure. I think Mark Andrews is going to have a big game against Miami, and Herbert against Kansas City. You know, we always talk about shootouts. That one very well could be a shootout. And I know Herbert won't have Keenan Allen in that one, which is probably the reason why the Chiefs will probably win that one. But I still think Herbert will put up a lot of points, even if they're down in garbage time. So I'm going Lucas here.
And honestly, I think Stafford has a big bounce back game here. I think he's playing Atlanta. I think it's gonna be Atlanta's gonna kick 10 field goals probably. So get your young Hoku in your lineup if you have them. And then Herbert, he's playing KC. I think that's going to be a shootout there. But then kind of looking at the running back room, I hope Kamara has a big bounce back game here. Eckler, I think, yeah, he's going to put up points as well. But you're right. Michael Carter, who I was down on this preseason, did put up 16.6 points. He had 60 rushing yards, 44 receiving yards. He did have 7 receptions. So that is going to boost that number up by 5.6 points right there. I believe that's what the math is, or 4.9,
Yep.
one of those numbers. And then he does have, but then kind of looking at the rest of the team, Josh Kelly, Damian Pierce, all the rookies who everybody thought were going to put up points, in week 1. I can't think of a one besides maybe the backup running back for KC who did anything last week. None of the rookies did anything, in my opinion. And then looking at the wide receiver room, you got Juju, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase for Devontae Johnson, Josh Palmer, and Tyler Boyd. I have Billsy Bob winning this one. I had it. Billsy Bob's winning this one. Billsy Bob did put up 175 points, way below the median. Green Lightning, I believe, put up 243 points above the median, so he would definitely got the win here. I see Billsy Bob having a bounce back game here and getting the W, and I'm going to stick with that. Next up, we have Ryan and Deuce Bombers, who's 60-34, going up against the Architect, who's 29-25. The Architect did lose to me last week. He did score above the median, though. I believe he had 240 some points, 49.81 points. Deuce Bombers only scored 19 more points than the Architect. The Architect had a couple players who did lay some goose eggs for him. So if they do bounce back, they have a shot to actually win this game. Looking at the quick matchup, Tyler Lawrence playing Indy. Indy did kind of look pretty bad last week. The defense looked pretty bad playing against Houston. And Saquon, CEH. In my opinion, CEH is still a bum. He only had 7 rushing attempts. He did have 42 yards, but he did most of that damage, most of his points on the tight in this tight 2 touchdowns he scored receiving. Versus Deuce Bomber, his team stacked. Patrick Mahomes, who threw 5 touchdown passes, Dalvin Cook, Javonte Williams, Devontae Swift, Mike Evans, Rashad Bateman, Hardman, Kement, Hunter Henry, Breece Hall, Wilson, AJ Green. I had Deuce Bombers winning this one originally, and what all those players I just named, that's his entire starting lineup for offense, and that is why he's going to win this one as well.
Well, I think we both had Deuce Bombers going undefeated. So unless we change our pick, we're going to go with Deuce every week. And I'm not changing my pick this week. So sometimes there's that curse. So it took basically did take a whole year for Deuce to finally get his 60th career win. And congrats for that. Will it take a whole year for Brandon to get that 30th career win? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The thing that I see in this game, that kind of hurts Brandon's scoring is this. So you have a starting quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, right? But then you also address the Colts defense. So you're hedging both, right? But what you're doing is, you might take away from both booming, right? So what you might end up doing is just evening out because the quarterback might have a bad game, defense does well, etc. Right? So I think that's going to be a big difference on why Deuce is going to win, because Deuce has Rams defense versus Atlanta, and Atlanta really sucks. And I think Rams, like we've talked, will have a bounce back game. And Mahomes is also gonna light it up on primetime on Thursday. So I'm sticking with Deuce Bombers here.
That's a valid point. Next up, we do have True North, 1-0, 63-45, going against Krista and Storm, who's also 63-45. So somebody is going to get their 64th win here. They are both 1-0. In my opinion, the difference between the two is Chris scored 300 and some points. He scored, I believe, one less point than I did. And where Krista and Storm scored 202 points, and that is 31 points less than median. I know I had True North definitely winning this one. And yeah, I mean, looking at the matchups real quick, you got Kirk Cousins, Joe Mixon, Patterson, and Stevenson, who I'm hoping True North is hoping will have a big bounce back game because he only had 25 yards and 2 catches for 2 yards. And then looking at the Storm side, Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Dobbins, and Harris. The questions for me are, well, is Derrick Henry actually healthy enough to actually take the full workload? He didn't look last week. J.K. Dobbins, is he actually going to play this week? Najee Harris, he is banged up. Is he going to play this week? Is he going to get a full workload? And then kind of looking at the wide receiver core, you got Kupp, Lamb, and Devontae Smith versus Jacoby Myers, Kirk, and Lockett. And honestly, give me the Kupp, Lamb, and Smith, even though Smith did put up a goose egg last week. And yeah, I have True North winning this one. I'm sticking with that, and I think he is going to go 2-0 and get that 64th win.
Yeah, I like True North in this one too. But there's a lot of things going on both sides. Like, you got to think CeeDee Lamb, does he bounce back? You'd hope. Does Devontae Smith bounce back? You got to hope for True North, right? And those guys had horrid games, and he still put up those kind of points. And this is why True North scares the hell out of me. I think True North literally is in line. If he makes one little tweak here and there, maybe add a couple more quality flex guys, he could very well take that championship this year. That's how high I am on him. I'm high on the Minnesota team with the new coach coming from the Rams. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a better year than expected. When I look at Krista's side, the fact that J.K. Dobbins got a full practice, that's definitely positive news for her. The fact that Najee Harris doesn't sound like he's going to miss time, another positive. And you got to think Russell Wilson will bounce back after that debacle against Seattle. They're playing Houston. So opportunity maybe for Russell Wilson to put up those 4 or 5 touchdowns that I predicted him to get last week, this week. But I'm still going to stick with True North. But Krista might not be as bad as we thought she was.
No, she is. Next up, we do have the H crew, who's 1-0, who's 23-18, going up against Horror Business, the commish, who is 1-0. Just so you know, we still have the same record since 2018. Looking at the matchup, I have you winning this one. And honestly, I think it comes down to, what does Nick Chubb do against the Jets? Josh Allen versus Tennessee, Tua versus Baltimore. Obviously, I like Josh Allen better. But then it's going to be Chubb versus Hunt. Who's going to get the carries? Who's going to get the touchdown against the Jets? Then you have NTN versus Fournette, Chase Edmonds versus Gainwell. In my opinion, your 3 running backs are better than his 3 running backs, even though Fournette probably will get the most points out of all 6 of them. Your running back, your wide receiver room, I should say, you have George Pickens, who scored 1.1 points. I think you can have a bounce back game against the Patriots here, and I think I like your team better. I had you originally picked. I think it's gonna be super close, honestly. I think this is gonna be a 1 to 2 point win here. And yeah, I'm just gonna go with that because it's gonna be close. It's gonna be a fun game to watch. This is actually one of the games that I am interested in watching and excited to watch. But yeah, I have you winning, and that's how it's gonna go.
I had Adrian winning this one, and that was my original pick. I think I'm going to change it now. I think I'm going to win just for the fact that Leonard Fournette is dealing with the hamstring problem, and those are never ideal, right? So if he's out of the lineup for Adrian, that's going to hurt him a lot. And I just think that Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL. And I think he's going to have a big game against the New York Jets. If you watch the way he ran, even against, whoever they were playing there last week, Carolina, I mean, he looks great, right? And I just think that my defense is just slightly better than his. I think his wide receivers are better than mine, but I think you're right. I think Pickens does bounce back and actually does something this week for me.
For sure. And the game of the week, we have the two best owners in history clash. I'm assuming this is by percentage. We have Fighting Geese and Susie 1-0. She is 68-40 against Suhino Eric, who's 28-13. Every year, I'm always down on Suhino. Every year, his IDPs somehow score him a bajillion points. I have him losing just because I don't like IDPs, and I like to look at the offensive players. And looking at the offensive players, Jameis Winston's versus Lamar Jackson. Obviously, I think Lamar Jackson against playing Tampa Bay could probably throw 4 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, and still get Susie about 28 points there. However, when I first did this matchup, I thought James Robinson, I didn't expect him to have that much of a role. Same thing with Devin Singletary, but I also thought that James Cook would be a little bit better and Rashad Penny would not actually be RB1. And I had Susie still winning with that. With that information, I am actually changing my pick here. I am going Suhino, and I think Suhino can take the W here. Just so everybody knows, Susie scored, even though she is 1-0, she scored 211, which is 22 points below the median for last week, where Suhino scored 276. He is about 43 points above the median. I can see him putting up another 270, 280 points as well, just because of his IDPs, how great they are. And I think he easily wins this one.
Wow. I originally had Susie, and I'm going to stick with Susie. So Susie's got the most career wins, third best win percentage. Deuce is second. Suhino is the best win percentage ever, lifetime in LOC. And you're right, he surprises us every single year. Lamar Jackson will be playing the home opener in Baltimore. I think he's going to put up big points. I think New Orleans Tampa has potential to be a shootout. Winston always will find a way to get the job done in garbage time for you in fantasy. So that's one thing about Jameis Winston. That's a positive for Susie. And let's face it, Justin Jefferson looks like he's going to be the best player to own in fantasy this year. So that's a huge one for Susie, 40 plus points last week. I think Susie's going to win because I think the 3 tight ends that she has in her lineup that grossly underperformed, I think they each had 1 point, 2 points out of somewhere in that range. I think they all deliver this time. And I think each one of them, this is would be a bold prediction, gets a touchdown this week. And I think it's going to be Fighting Geese taking out Suhino. She's 4-1 career versus him. She's owned him. She's going to continue to own him in this one.
I actually think Kyle Phillips is actually going to rock out this week and make me even in bets with you this week.